As a performance coach, you are transforming leaders into legends. Can you share a client story that has moved you the most and why?
One of my clients, an executive, a serial entrepreneur in his 40s, overachiever, was working non-stop. I believe it was about 5 years without any vacation. So he has a family, he has two small kids, and he was just working, achieving more and more success. And then we started working together. So he wanted to achieve even more, right, as they do. What ended up after 1 year's time, we mapped out where he started the journey, and what moved me the most, and I believe him as well, was he got results. Let's say he earned almost 100,000 euros more by working 3 months less, and that 3 months he was able to spend with his family, with the things he loved. His creativity opened up. So, and one of those months he spent an island with his family, on an island with his family. So I have this saying, slow down to speed up, and this proved its case really well. So the children were more happy, he was more balanced in everything. Of course, the fitness and health and everything got impacted by it, and yeah, there were measurable results.
I absolutely love that. And that is so true because many people think they have to do more to achieve more, but then they neglect themselves so much. Not only men, but also women nowadays who try to win the bag, bring the bag home, bring the bag home. Yeah, me too. Like it's a danger for us, right? Especially if we are naturally driven to and we enjoy working and creating things, right? uh, we can easily go into the wrong direction, so to speak, and neglect our human needs, right? So
Hmm.
let's talk about performance for a second. What does that mean in your work? And what are some major misconceptions people have about performance?
What I love, and you pointed out as well, we love it. Like work is creativity, work is play, and you want to play. So there's a danger in that, right? Playing too much or like it coming at the cost of something else. But some misconceptions about performance are, for example, more hours equals more productivity. Like the client before, like working nonstop for years, like thinking, like the fear of if I stop now, I will lose it all, right? But that's counterintuitive because that we as humans don't function that way. So that's one misconception. It doesn't actually like the slow down to speed up. We need those breaks and we become even more productive. So that's one misconception. Now, another is stress. It's a word thrown around so much, and like people are a bit scared of it even. But stress isn't bad always. We grow under stress. So there's this saying that moderate level of stress, we call it eustress or eustress in English. So we need that for optimal and peak performance. We actually need about 30% of cortisol, the stress hormone, and about 70% of dopamine. That's when we perform at our best. So stress is actually good. It becomes down to the level of balance or like how much we have it. So that's one misconception. Then there's like we choose talent over practice. But like Malcolm Gladwell said, like you don't need those 10,000 hours. You only need that 1% of talent and that 99% of work. So not always going after the talent. And then performance is about embracing failure. So depending on the level where the leader is at, most of them already know that failure is good. Failure is a stepping stone as long as you can learn from it, right? But but sometimes we still have those corners in ourselves that we don't even know that we still are afraid of failure. And then leaders like to see results. And when we don't see those results fast enough, then performance it's not working, like something's wrong. And then they start to change tactics, and often that's not good because sometimes we need that silent work without results to have that compounding effect or that exponential growth. So that's this how do I say it? A place where they might stumble. And I've seen it numerous times, leaders constantly changing the way they approach things and not seeing the results and doing a disservice to themselves, really. So that hinders performance. Multitasking. Nope, no point. So many studies are out. Don't multitask. Instead of that, chunk your day into tasks, like chunking health and fitness, chunking email responses, etc. So not multitasking. Multitasking goes against performance. And perfection. So many leaders and achievers go for perfection. And like Tony Robbins says, perfection is the lowest standard you can actually have because you can never reach it. So it doesn't really exist. So it's like you wouldn't have a standard, and yet it hinders you. It makes you all kinds of fears pop up, right? Fear of judgment and rejection when we don't do things perfectly. So it really hinders performance. And the misconception is I have to do things perfectly, then I will get those awesome results. But I have this saying, and I used to be, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And what really helped me, the first sentence was like saying to myself, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And I got myself moving. Sometimes I still do something to perfection or to the T that I like to kid myself around, but that's one misconception. And then, like Einstein used to say, your mental stress should equal your physical stress. Then you're at balance or in balance. And I think nowadays, more and more leaders and achievers understand that they need the physical stress, the physical exercise to perform, to up their performance, right? It's like the brain and body connection and everything. So the misconception is if I work night and day and night, I will get more done. I don't need to even get up from that chair. Let me just work, and just leave out the physical body completely. But no, we're beings filled with electricity in ourselves and bodies, and we need to move. So to keep everything moving and perform at a higher level.
I would like to add to talent. My personal belief is that there is no talent. I personally call it more like gifts, because even if you had something like talent, a manifestation of a skill in your genes, wouldn't that be amazing? There is actually no scientific proof of talent to exist in your genes. You might have a preference or a predisposition, as I call it, in your genes for, let's say, in musical terms, we often talk about talent, right? But when we speak about those musical terms, you don't have talent for music or have talent for singing, for example, but you have maybe a predisposition for rhythm, right? That's just one aspect of music that you might
Mm-hmm.
have inherited in your genes. And for business people, just the same way, you might have a predisposition for language. Doesn't mean that you are a talented speaker, right? You still have to practice. You still have to activate those genes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what those predispositions can do for you is just speed up your ability to get somewhere, right? Compared
Yep,
to
yep.
someone who might not have that predisposition, but we still have to work, right? So sitting and being resting on your gifts, so to speak, on your talents, will not get you anywhere. It will actually block you from achieving anything because you will believe, oh, I'm talented, I don't need to work, right? But while those without talent will outwork you
Yeah.
any day of the year, right? Resting is so crucial. I fully agree. And you even have to think about your personalized work and rest balance, right? You
Yeah.
cannot go like Tony Robbins or Dwayne Johnson, right? You have to find your own balance. And I see that all the time. People
Mm-hmm.
are mimicking, people are imitating way too much other people. Just because they are successful doesn't mean that you will be successful with the same tactics,
Mm-hmm.
with the same ways of living, because your inner clock is so different.
Yeah, and to add to it, I know Tony's in routine because Tony's friend is my personal mentor. they have machines and like detailed approaches that like compensate for the lack of sleep. And one interesting fact, I'm just going to add that because sleep, for example, is such a key factor. I did not know that before, that our brain has its own lymphatic system that only activates when we sleep.
Absolutely. And people miss out on sleep. Just, I can get done more if I sleep less, right? I only need 4 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
honestly am so glad that I disregarded that recommendation from the start when I started my business.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was kind of, I was lazy actually. I was really lazy to wake up so early in the morning, because I thought I need sleep. That was my natural response. I need sleep. I'm a woman. I need sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also, kind of every woman that has kids, we have to kind of get the sleep back that we didn't have, like for so many years, right? Raising
Mm-hmm.
our kids. I know you have two of your own.
Three,
So,
actually.
oh, three now.
Mm-hmm. One is
Awesome.
17. She's almost a grown
Oh,
up, so yeah.
okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have to get back our sleep, right? So
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
and I see that mistake have been done by women all the time, and this is so frustrating for me that women always tend to imitate
Mm.
men. This is also a major danger that I see.
Science says that women need at least 20 to 30 minutes more sleep, their brain, because women's brain, the hemispheres, have more connections than men. That's, oh, we could go into intuition and everything because I love the brain stuff. So, but yeah, you're on point. I agree.
Me too. Yeah, I heard a scientist talk about that men could get away with sleep of 4 to 6 hours, but that's on the edge, right? It's also on
Mm-hmm.
the edge for
Oh,
men. Men generally need a little bit more, right? But for
yeah,
women, if you sleep less than 8 hours, you will lose your life, years of your life, if you don't sleep properly, because our
yeah,
hormones
yeah,
are completely different compared to men. So we
yeah,
need a different kind of rhythm when it comes to sleep. Also, you
absolutely.
mentioned multitasking. That's one of my favorites because I'm a victim of that myself. I thought like, ooh, I can multitask. And in the beginning, you might be thinking I'm great at it, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's almost expected of women to
When you're a
multitask pretty
mom,
much.
come
Yeah.
on.
Like we are born with a multitask gene. That's what we believe. But I also totally agree. Even during the day, I used to do that in the beginning of my business. I used to multitask like like a crazy one. My day would be like task A, task B. Every hour, I would switch to a different thing, and I can do it. I can do it because I'm a high energy individual,
Mm-hmm.
at least most of the time. So I thought I can do it, right? But then I actually switched it and I gave myself time for a whole day, just one thing. Man, that opened up so much because I was used to do that as a musician all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I used to give myself a lot of time and when I do artwork and stuff. And that opens up so much more creativity. And I know you talk about creativity and dreaming so much, which we
Mm-hmm.
will hopefully get into during this
Yeah,
interview. So time is actually a very profound, very important aspect of creation, of creativity and
mm-hmm.
success, right? But most
Yeah.
people think so falsely of time. They have a wrong mindset when it comes to time. Trying to multitask a lot of things, even scheduling out A, B, C tasks during the day that you believe will drive success, is actually wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
there are even people who suggest don't schedule out your day like we used to do that in school because it's completely wrong. The brain doesn't function like that. When let's go back to your clients that you mentioned in the beginning would start to doubt their own capabilities, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or view their dreams as unattainable,
Mm-hmm.
how would you guide them to rediscover their inherent power and potential?
I have processes for that, tools for that. So our brain is built in a way that it wants to survive and like conserve energy. So the brain automatically always tries to search for the negative in the environment, the tiger in the bush that might attack. and it disregards the part that we've already done, all the positive, right? So one of the processes is actually you set a timer and for 5 minutes non-stop, you write down all your life accomplishments. Writing and remembering is the rewiring process for the brain. You will remember your potential, your power, everything you've done. Since like you learned to walk, you got that on a test in fifth grade, you finished university, you did that project, like whatever. And when you stack all of that, you gain access to your power, you prove to yourself, you take your brain out of the negative. So that's like accessing your power. That's one tool. There are others as well. And the second part of the question is, okay, when they've lost faith in their dream, again, one of the most powerful tools in psychology is reframing. So let's look at the frame. Why? The why behind the why. Why do we do things? What moved inside you? And let's reframe. What does it mean? Just like guiding with questions. So what does a coach do? I'm just a guide. The client is the hero. And my job is to remind powerful people how powerful they really are. Because there are moments in all of our lives where we just like, we can't see it ourselves anymore. And like domineering and leader type personalities asking for help, whew, that's like hard. That's not easy because it's like showing weakness. So that's where a reframe comes in. Like, no, we don't ask for help because we're weak. We ask for help so that we can continue being strong.
When someone loses touch of their dream or vision that they initially had and were so passionate about, I believe like the dream and the vision that you have is part of you, right? Part of your identity. So whenever you lose touch of it, it is the most logical thing to then think, I have lost touch with myself. So at least that helps me to see it that way, because then I can, again, goes back to the questions that we had before. When I reconnect with myself, I then also start reconnecting with my vision, with my dream again. So the balance that you mentioned in the beginning between the mind and the body, whenever I lose touch of the vision and dream, which is in the head most of the time, I need to go back to and retouch, so to speak, and reconnect with my body. So balancing that, go do something with your body, whatever hobby I hope you have, right? Whether it is dancing, music, art, sports, whatever it is, like whenever you reconnect with your own body, you strengthen your identity, which I personally talk a lot in my work, because that's so important as to how you see your own future and the ability to develop your own future and vision, right? Which is so important. If you don't have a vision, like, where are you going? What are you doing, right? So this reconnection is so crucially important. And as you said, the why, always to go back to the why of the why, so to speak, not the superficial why, but like sit down and write down 50 things of why you want to do it, and only the last 10 will really give you the reason of why you're really doing it, right? So whenever I lose touch of my work, which happens all the time, right? There are cycles of losing yourself in all the work, right? That you're so passionate about, losing yourself, crying yourself into sleep, right? Which I know a lot of beginner business owners are going through, but even like seasoned executives and professionals go through these phases, right? And people always think, oh, they don't have any problems because they have so much money. Like, that's so wrong to think about that, right? Because they're still human. And as long as we are human, it doesn't really matter how much money we have on our bank accounts. We're still human. And we are still kind of affected by things that are happening on social media, right? Things that happen with our friends and families and kids and all that stuff, right? We are still going through that.
We all have that same nervous system that goes into that parasympathetic, sympathetic switches between those, and the triggers and everything. And I love how you said, like, when you were your too stuck in your head, the only way to access back is through the body, totally, and breath work and meditation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I discovered the power of breathing as a singer very early on in my life, and I'm so grateful that my choir teacher actually taught me the right way to breathe, as I discovered so many people unlearn proper and
Mm,
healthy breathing when they are kids, right? It starts even in like in ages of kids, right? Because they start going to school where they experience
mhm.
a lot of stress, and
Yeah,
that diminishes their ability to breathe healthily, right?
yeah,
And all
yeah.
that suppression comes to it. So
Emotions like, yeah, we don't breathe when we start to cry, and like, yeah, all of that connected and learned. Yeah.
everything that we basically experience as kids, we have to heal when we are adults. And we kind of almost, only if we are aware of it or become aware of it,
Mhm.
it almost takes a decade to unlearn everything that might have gone wrong in your childhood. And so the fast way, the fast track of doing so is always to have a mentor, always have
Mhm.
someone on your side who is 10 steps ahead of you, right? Who can
Yeah, yeah.
see where you might be headed, right? Who can see right through all the things that you might be struggling with.
Hmm.
And we just talked about dreaming. I would like to go more into that.
Yeah.
Dreaming can be both absolutely exhilarating, as I can see in your eyes that you feel that same way about dreaming and visualizing things and have a vision, right?
Hmm.
But at the same
Hmm.
time, also very intimidating. And to many people, it is, right? What is your take on dreaming specifically, and what does it mean to dream big?
50% of our brain is focused on vision, meaning visuals. So, and I'm coming back to Einstein again, because like by formal education, I'm a mechanical engineer. So
Oh, I love
physics,
that.
my favorite subject. So yeah. So Einstein said, imagination is the preview to of what's to come. And that our brain functions in a way that when it sees something, it doesn't tell the difference what's real and what's not. When it sees it, it believes it. Our rational mind can explain it further, but the brain initially just goes. So when we envision and see, we guide, like, for instance, like you get up in the morning, you think bathroom, your body already follows your mind there. Or like coffee machine, you're already like that you can like work on the subconscious in such a way that it will start doing so. Now dreaming, so everything begins in the vision. Why I like to talk about dreaming big, or not, maybe not even big, but I like to talk about your impossible dream. And why I love it is when something is impossible, you can't figure out your way there, so you have to become it. And that's like counterintuitive, but it's like it's the place where you can have exponential growth. Let me think how I will explain it. So, in order to do something you've never done before, you have to become someone you've never been before. So, and this big dream or the impossible dream is the fastest way to growth as well as a human being. So it's like cleverly um, deceiving the brain. So we're going for after your vision or your dream, and you hold that in your mind, because now I'm going to jump around, but one of the strongest forces in psychology is our need to hold on to our identity. Because and I've gone through this, when you start feeling like you're losing your identity, it feels like your whole world is collapsing. You don't know what's real and what's not anymore, and you feel like you're not going to survive. So by doing it cleverly and keeping you focused on that dream that you can't really, like, plan your steps to, we deceive the brain in changing you and changing your, when we said like the traumas we have in childhood, for example, like someone being alone or like a lone wolf or socially isolated, you need, like the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. So now how do you start loving people? How do you start trusting people again? a lot of domineering people have that need for control and like hard to trust people. So your dream will like teach you how to move past that. So you, where focus goes, energy flows. You won't focus on the fear so much, but you keep your vision on the dream, and you change in the process.
Basically, when you start visualizing or developing a vision, is that
Hmm.
it is kind of like an anchor, if you will. And
Hmm.
depending on how you start dreaming, because if you start dreaming from a toxic place where you feel, where you have not healed all the necessary trauma in order to get there, I personally believe it will be the wrong dream. It will be a too small dream because you have a lot of trauma still in your body, and it will hold you back from actually seeing further than your trauma. So you kind of have to be in a place of healthy self-love, if you will, healthy self-acceptance, to and this is like details, like counting the peas, so to speak. But I hope that this illustration helps someone who might be in that place, that, and procrastination plays a big role in that as well, because when you are in a lot of trauma, you will procrastinate because the dream and the vision is not big enough for you, because you know internally, your core knows that you can do more than that what you have envisioned from that toxic place, let's say. So you kind of have to reconnect with yourself from your core and see past the trauma, of course, do some healing so that you can develop a healthy vision. And I see that a lot with people who have developed visions and they believe, yeah, that's what I want to do. But in the end, when they are in the middle of doing it, they realize, oh my God, it was all along the wrong path for me. And I don't understand how that could have happened. Right. So I want to make sure that people are aware of these things, that you can absolutely set the wrong goals, dream the wrong dream, do go forward with the wrong dream, right? But dreaming from a healthy place will always embrace your ability to place the right dream in front of you. And I love how you put it, that it is like an anchor that you can always go back to and remind yourself, this is where we're going, this is what we want to achieve, right? So how, not like telling yourself, oh, I can't do it, that's too hard, that's like there's a stone and there's a stone and there's an obstacle, I can't do it, that's too hard of a challenge. No, you actually ask yourself, how can I achieve it, right? And if the
Hmm.
dream is healthy and big enough, you will find a way, right? And I found myself, of course, like everybody else, in that same position, right? Dreaming the wrong dream, doing the wrong dream, finding the right dream, and doing the right thing. But then again, finding myself in a lot of obstacles along the way and not knowing, my God, how am I going to solve this humongous problem? I cannot even see past it. Like, how
Hmm.
would that be possible, right? And by asking myself how, next day, like a little door opens up and I suddenly see that could be the way. Let's try
Hmm.
that, right? And then
Hmm.
you go ahead and you try and you remove all the obstacles, and then all of a sudden you see past all the challenges and all the obstacles by just doing. And again, not being a perfectionist about everything, but just get it
Hmm.
done.
Yeah, because the most important thing is keep moving. It's like you can imagine it's raining and pouring. Yeah, when it's raining and pouring, and when you're at a low point, the most important thing is to keep moving so you won't get as wet.
Yeah.
But when everything's great, take a rest, enjoy the sunshine, don't rest for too long. I love how you mentioned procrastination because I have this, I call it the thieves of our dreams. It's procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, self-doubt, self-loathing, imposter syndrome. So all of those, and they all boil down to fear of rejection, basically. The most what human fears boil down to is fear of rejection since we were babies, right?
What role does mindset play, and what are the three key beliefs and skills a person needs to reach excellence?
Mindset. I don't like the word mindset. I use the word psychology. Mindset is something elusive and not so comprehensive, let's put it that way. Psychology is our beliefs about the world, other people, and about ourselves. So it's more deep and ingrains or entails mindset in itself already. The amount of people who fail is equal to the amount of people who quit. And usually it's like just before they reach that success. So you can only fail if you quit is my mantra that I use. So I am not planning on quitting. Persistence is first. Then you put it so beautifully. And let's say staying in touch or being able to center yourself to yourself, align with yourself in whatever situation is necessary, and come from that place when making your decisions, and especially for leaders, making decisions is everything. So that's the second thing. Persistence, the ability to align with yourself. And now, as research shows, there are a lot of studies been done like, so who's the successful one? What's the correlation? What's the one metric? And the one thing that has been boiled down to is not age, not the field, not gender, no. It's like their unwavering belief in their dream or vision and their willingness to step off a cliff to go after it. So that's how they've, most like statistics and studies show they've achieved that excellence. It's unwavering belief in your gut feeling, intuition, everything aligns with that, right? So they would be willing to walk off a cliff. So if you can find those in yourself, whatever they may be, wherever it might lead you, I guess that's why you're here.
So some may claim high performance will always lead to burnout. What's your take on this?
There's a high probability for it. And we can talk about balance. It's the constant balancing act. We can talk about harmony. And now if I come back to reality and talk about myself as a high performer, my clients, the thing is we enjoy it so much and we get so involved in it. As I said, it becomes play. We get so like focused. That's what we want to do because we enjoy it. That's why the results come, right? So, and now how to avoid burnout. Processes set in place before the obsession takes over or the drive to go after that goal. And it's a constant learning and unlearning because I know so many achievers that have experienced numerous burnouts. The best practice that I've seen is imagine your ideal week, what you would want it to be, and like map it out. Map out the time for exercise, map out the time for family and friends, for yourself. Map it out before you get so driven in your goal. And of course, there will be weeks or months when you still get so driven, but when you have that roadmap of what like life would look like if you've done and achieved everything, that's something you can fall back on because it will come at a cost. So there was, I think, a few years where I wondered, what is burnout really? So a lot of people like depression comes aside with it, but no, burnout you recognize is like what sets it apart from depression, according to clinical psychologists, is depression is like when you don't feel like getting up out of bed and doing anything, versus burnout is like you worked yourself so hard, even on the thing you love, that you don't want to do it. You don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole anymore, but you're willing to. If someone invites you, let's go to Bora Bora or like Hawaii, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, then you can see it's burnout. And the only thing you can conclude is I've done too much of that same one thing that I've like exhausted my drive for it, basically. And to keep that drive going, you need to pull back the horses a bit, even if you don't want to, yeah.
The hardest part is really recognizing when is it burnout already and when it's not. When am I just tired, right? And did you ever
Hmm.
experience burnout yourself?
I've been on the borderline of it. Luckily, I am able to notice when it starts coming. That's when I like, you have to have these hard rules for yourself and the map, right? So schedule vacation, plan out, have these backups in place, and like, yeah, take a break basically.
What I love
It,
about the schedule that you mentioned is like not develop a schedule that you would use right now that is based on your current workload, but develop a weekly schedule based on your vision, imagining
Mhm,
that you already achieved everything that you wanted to achieve in life, and base the schedule on that, because that
mhm,
will always kind of connect you back to where you're actually going, right? Not just the
mhm,
intangible big dream, ooh, I want to do XYZ, right? It's
mhm,
oftentimes not even, you cannot feel and touch it, right? Even though you can
mhm.
clearly see it in all the flying colors, right?
Notice that when you do it like that, like burnout means you don't want what you're doing anymore. But when you then fall back to the ideal, when you've done and achieved it all, you start building back the love for the process.
Many high achievers, especially in the business world, feel that if they ease up, as you mentioned in the beginning, on their relentless work ethic, everything they have built will crumble to their feet. So, what's your advice in this situation?
I have this little speech written, and it begins like, in the quiet of the night when no one is listening, thoughts start coming. If I stop working so hard, it will all go away. So, yeah, the fear is real, not true. And that I have the saying, slow down to speed up, right? Because when someone's operating from that level, it's like this quote, they're basically playing not to lose, but they're not playing to win anymore.
Hmm.
So it's fear and cortisol based, meaning from that alone, I can derive that their performance isn't at their peak, coming from fear and lack. So the wisest thing is like step back, get a new perspective. You don't know what you haven't noticed, what you haven't seen. It's like the reticular activating system in our brain, like the filter, sees only this one thing, and we're not even noticing the options that are available. The same with the first client I talked about, who ended up earning 100K extra. They stepped back and with a more playful, creative approach, they saw these opportunities by working less, earning more. But if they hadn't slowed down, if they hadn't taken that break, that exponential growth hadn't come. So it's counterintuitive, but like the only reassurance is it has worked for others. So even though it's scary, you can do scary and maybe like give it a try a week, a month, see what happens, if everything crumbles or not.
I learned exactly that pretty much the hard way, and it was such a delightful experience to see it happening right in front of my eyes. I believed for the longest time, not just when I started my business, but long before, I was like working, doing, never giving myself enough of a break, like always like a workhorse, right?
Mhm,
And that was my normal state, right? I didn't know anything else, right?
mhm,
I would always like burn all my boundaries. There were no boundaries, right? And if I tried to put some up, I would burn them immediately because of, as you said, fear. It's always fear
mhm,
based. But as soon as you actually take yourself back, restore some of the major and profound boundaries that you need in your life, like prosperity, abundance, and all that beautiful things that you want in your life, they will start pouring in because you are in a higher state of mind and being.
mhm,
Because how do you want to serve on a higher level? Let's say serve your clients, right? If you are constantly worn out, if you are constantly stressed, if you are not in the right, beautiful, abundant mindset, if you will, and being, it will be impossible because like people can feel it, even though they cannot pinpoint it. They absolutely can feel it. How you present yourself on social media, how you talk, even in
Mhm.
your written language, in your copy, they can feel it all, right? From what
Mhm.
kind of a place you are coming from. Are you calm? Do you trust yourself that you don't need to be salesy and throw yourself at people, right? Which a
Mhm.
lot of people, especially women, are enormously struggling with, right? With this whole selling thing, right? And
Mhm. Mhm.
marketing stuff. So it is so crucially important to take yourself back. And I can 100% subscribe to your particular method and how you see things. And that this is kind of the magical key, if you will, that you need to place into your heart, let's say.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and by doing so, you're basically removing fear out of the driver's seat, right?
Mhm.
Fear is not driving you anymore. It's trust, that you trust yourself, that you trust the
Mhm.
universe, that you trust your vision, once again, that you
Mhm.
trust people. I think this is a major one, that people who
Mhm.
are struggling with business, marketing, and sales and all that stuff, they don't trust other people, like by a long shot. So you need to instill trust on so many different levels and remove fear from that driver's seat, to
Mhm.
be in control again, to be the one who leads herself into the beautiful space where you want to be. And like everything starts pouring in. You don't need to do a
Mhm.
billion things. Like
Yeah.
it's so beautiful that you have stated it in such a simple way that people can remember it, hopefully.
Nita is creepy. What
Yeah.
my mentor said, it's the energy, the vibe of it, and like, but it has to be authentic and sincere. So coming down, you have to trust yourself.
And this is so hard when
Mm.
you feel a lot of pressure to deliver, to work, to bring the
Yeah.
money, to put food on the table and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That kind of can get you in a state where you start pressuring not only yourself, but also other people, right?
Mhm.
And by
Mhm.
building back up that type of trust, you really allow yourself to rest in peace and calm and grace, right?
Mhm.
And that's what people love, right? People will not come to you when you are in such a hateful,
Yeah.
negative space, right?
Yeah. We're so intelligent beings. We sense so much, even though we can't make sense of it, but we know, we feel it. Yeah.
We do. So, as someone who coaches executives and high achievers, what patterns or recurring themes have you observed in their lives when it comes to maintaining a sense of purpose and fulfillment? I feel this is a major and important part of work, and feeling like you have arrived somewhere, even though you never arrived. But basically,
Mhm.
what are the successful doing differently that other people need to learn from?
So one thing is definitely when they have their dream or goal, they already have the next one. So before they achieve that initial one, they already have the next one in mind pretty accurately, because that will start working for their benefit. Because the closer you start arriving to your goal, the pressure builds up, right? Like all the self like sabotaging things might jump up. But when you have the next one in place, your focus is there. So again, like it's like clever distraction. You're achieving it more effortlessly. That's one thing I've seen them do. Some even have 100 years planned ahead of their business. Again, it's that I know it's like it might sound like a worn out record already, but taking inventory of your energy, and you are the sum, the it's the like you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. It just is, and it's so hard, and it's harsh to like, okay, so I'm supposed to just like cut out people from my life. Yeah, and I've seen them, they all like, and they're quite strict with it. Like, yep, nope, get out. And many of them say like one opportunity and then nope, you're out, you're out, you're out. And they're like, when we even take Elon Musk, I heard today from my client, that Elon Musk has set fixed people who he even talks to. He won't let anyone, like, the topics he discusses, like, it's really like selected people. And if that applies, and I've seen it, like, the higher you get, and as a starting point, when I started out, it was COVID times, like I'm home with kids, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where do I find the 5 people? Because I have this like 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. My creativity is being really enhanced, and my leadership skills and my patience and everything, like high like development is going on. And the coolest thing I noticed was when I started listening to all those audiobooks and stuff, when I put my kids to sleep, for example, sitting in a dark room for 2 hours. And after like 4 months, I was like, huh, I'm going on a date with my friend to listen to this friend now. And it like, and then I realized that's enough. That actually is enough in whatever field. May you want to study quantum physics, like business leadership, you find that one top person you would ideally want to model or have in your circle, and you listen. You listen because we learn by modeling as human beings. So that's what they do. Because even I think Napoleon Hill had his round table where he imagined all those people sitting and the characteristics he admired in each of them. He had those discussions, and he transferred those characteristics onto himself, because we learn by modeling. That's the fastest way even a child and human being learns. So that's what I've seen them do as well.
And this is again coming from fear, right? When people nowadays, when they're starting out their businesses, let's say, right, or even if they have reached like high numbers in their businesses, right, earning a lot of money, being executives, being CEOs, and all that stuff. I feel the reason why they might not crack the last bit, right, where they want to level up into the next realm, so to speak, is because they are not retracting themselves and not selecting. I feel this is like a fine tuning almost like of a musical instrument, if you will, right? It's like sense. It's just a little bit, but it has a tremendous reach, if you will, right? If the tone is attuned properly, let's say in musical terms. So when you are reducing your circle to those people that actually feed you in multiple ways, and you should be feeding those people as well. That's a given, right? It should not only be taken. You actually raise your boundaries in a way that empowers not only you but also empowers your circle, right? Because they can, as you said, they can emulate how you present yourself. They will emulate, and it's like almost like a domino effect. That the exponential growth that you have been talking about in the beginning can actually take place when you have such people in your circle. Because when you are doing it alone, right, you are dimpling around here, right, and you are maybe all growing. Oh, great, I'm growing. But it takes so much time, right? But when you are actually, again, remove the fear of competition and actually start collaborating more with people who are just amazing, who have amazing brains and souls, right? You can accelerate not only yourself, but you can take them with you. And you are like the power of such a circle, like a small circle, is incredible and tremendous. How it actually can play out for the future of people who are in high places, executives, CEOs, and professionals who are working on a high level, is that it also feeds back into the work. Right? It does not only feed themselves as a person. I'm not only growing as a person, right? It also feeds the circle, but it also feeds my work as I grow exponentially in my work. So it is like a spiral that takes me up, like in a speedy way. It's like saving time 10 times, 10x, like in Grant Cardone language.
So I call this human physics, and you nailed it. Like, how I think, so I feel, how I feel, so I do, and as I do, so I have. And there are moments when we can't see our greatness. That's when we need the other people who see it in us to make us believe again. because all our like the impact and what we achieve it begins with a thought and our feeling. When you feel, imagine you would feel empowered most of the days in a week, how much you could get done, the energy levels and everything, versus when you doubt yourself, you're not really feeling it, you're stuck in your thoughts. Again, like you lack the results, you lack the performance.
How do you distinguish between healthy contentment, like we high performers, we struggle with contentment just in general,
Mm-hmm.
and the detrimental effects of boredom in your life, despite your major achievements, let's say?
If we look at like Google and stuff, it says like contentment is better. But like the brain research and stuff I've done, I like boredom more because growth happens when we feel uncomfortable. And most people can't sit with their emotions, but if we can sit with the boredom, it makes us move. It makes us embrace change. Now for psychological well-being, contentment is better because like you feel like satiated when you've had a nice meal, for example, which is nice, but it's a dangerous place to get stuck in. So it hinders growth, but it balances your psychology. But I'm a fan of boredom more.
So, what is boredom then?
Boredom is this unease, this feeling like it should be different. You're not happy with it. So, and yeah, the danger comes like when most of us as kids aren't like, our emotions are like shunned. We aren't taught to sit with our uncomfortable emotions. So, with boredom comes this like you might go for alcohol or something, a numbing substance. But if you know boredom and you can sit with it and you can train yourself to sit with it, your creativity starts working. You switch because a human emotion lasts for 90 seconds if we don't start like over analyzing, overthinking because of it. So when you can get out of it and you can make it work for you, you can again, comes down to performance. You can like open up creativity and change and do more coming from boredom then. Yeah.
Like, this is so true, and all the artists and musicians and all the creatives will recognize that 100% whenever they are stuck in any kind of writer's block or creator's block or
Mm-hmm.
singer's block, whatever you feel like your realm is, as soon as you just let go, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and allow yourself to be just bored, to be just with yourself, to just put your feet up on the wall and be just
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to be, right? And be
Mm-hmm.
bored about everything in your life, right? It literally allows your brain to restructure itself. I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
can call it that way, but it almost feels like it, right? Of course, not entirely
You will,
restructuring, we don't need that, but
yeah.
it kind of reframes itself to see things that we have not seen before,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and pay attention to things that we have not paid attention before when we experience this kind of block, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think creativity will be one of the things, one of the soft skills that will be very, very in demand in the next 10 to 20 years.
And those leaders and like high achievers, those serial entrepreneurs, they're one of the most creative types I've met.
And those who aren't need to pair up with creatives, because this is where the
Mm-hmm.
future will ultimately go. I feel also in the space of marketing, I see an
Mm-hmm.
enormous shift where it goes away from this cold marketing and more into more creative ways of how you can actually present a product or service,
Mm-hmm.
so that you almost cannot feel that it is about a product or service, that it is more intuitive, more intricate, and there are more
Mm-hmm.
details, more creative, where you have a beautiful fusion of movie, art, music, sports, where you have like this beautiful collaboration. So this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of where the future is headed for
Yeah.
social media, 100%, and for marketing and the sales space.
Mm-hmm. I love that how you put it. Yeah, I agree.
So emotions, we talked a little bit about emotions, and they can be extremely challenging, no matter where you are on your business journey, whether you have 1 billion in your bank account or like $1 and you're just starting out, right? Like you will have emotions. Like money won't save you from having emotions, especially for high achieving businessmen and women who may prioritize logic most of the time and reason. What's your advice on gaining higher emotional intelligence, and what are the benefits of doing so?
Yep, you're so on point with it. And oh, and I know some people uh, who have had that 1 million, maybe 10, 15, and next day they have had that $1 on their account. That's where their emotions get really tested, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and that's where they grow the most. Okay, some have a talent, that 1%, right? But no, you can, again, it's a skill, it can be learned. And there are exercises for mindfulness, meditation, but like actually going around, you go to your office and for a week you try to see the world like this is this John guy, and you actually say, okay, I'm going to see the world now as John sees it for a week. That develops your emotional intelligence already. So there are a lot of exercises a person can do to develop that skill. Why the skill is good, you need it for leadership. You need it for stress management, like emotional intelligence, like you recognize your own state of being, the alignment and stuff. The more you train it, you can like anticipate the stress, anticipate the burnout, and you build stronger relationships. You're more adaptable to change. Again, you won't let your emotions take a hold of you, or like you won't get sick as easily when you know how to handle emotions. Conflicts will be resolved in a more eloquent way, let's put it
Mm-hmm.
like that. And overall personal well-being. So yeah, we are above all emotional beings. We like to think we're rational, but no, science says we're emotional more than rational. So yeah.
Now I'm very
Now,
curious to know who has influenced you the most in your life in becoming the type of woman that you've become and the type of coach that you are today.
first of all, my grandma, who raised me until I was 5. So she instilled a lot of good qualities in me. Then, of course, my mom, uh, who instilled a separate amount of qualities. Like my grandma was really like this woman, and my mom was so kind and gentle and really good in at communications. And then myself, for like I'm just gonna for dragging myself along, for picking myself up
Mm.
from things and places. And then for most of my life, I prayed for someone, for a mentor, for someone to like who would be wiser than me to like pull me out of all the life situations I was in. So it started, I think the first impact was with Tony Robbins. Then now my personal mentor is Joseph McClendon III. Then Les Brown is my mentor right now, and numerous others. So, and I have a firm belief that I can learn from every person, that everyone has something to teach me. So,
So, energy levels, you mentioned those in this interview, play a crucial role in maintaining peak performance, right? So,
mhm.
what habits or practices have you found effective in boosting and sustaining your energy levels? And how do you see the difference between men and women? I find that important when it comes to energy
Mhm.
levels for performance or high performance.
The higher the level the person has to perform, the more important it becomes. When you think about Olympic athletes, or it's that 1%, even 1% of tweak in like diet, exercise, sleep can like again exponential results. So, but the key, and I like to do this with my clients, is take an inventory, a thorough inventory of their energy, places, people, habits that drain them of energy and that give them energy. And that always looking for that balance and looking for the place where they would give more, they would get more than they give, or that's been taken from them. So the key things are, of course, exercise. because the more we move, the more energy we have. Then, as it has been said, let food be your medicine and let medicine be your food. Nowadays, of course, the quality of the food isn't what it used to be maybe 200-300 years ago. So supplements, I'm into biohacking as well. So I like to look at supplements, what we don't get from food to keep a balance. Hydration. Even 2% of dehydration affects the brain many, many times over, so people lack focus. Sleep, as we said already, because the lymphatic system, everything gets only activated in the brain when we sleep. It's our personal psychologist as well, which I didn't know before, that handles trauma and everything that's been going on. Sleep then. And taking small regular breaks is super important for energy. Social skills. So actually training the brain, interacting with people is training the brain. Because why, let's say, retired people get a decline in their health and brain health is because they lack social interaction. But that activates neuroplasticity. So being social, like actually going healthy outings with your coworkers, for example, or like with the ones you love, like it's really helpful. And for me, I fought it for a long time, but meditation, mindfulness, but meditation. And the funny thing with the brain is the more analytical the person is, which a lot of leaders are, the more challenging it is to meditate because the prefrontal cortex and the analytical mind gets in the way, the thoughts and everything to meditate. So it might even take up to 2 years to get that, to get a grasp of what meditation is. But it like the benefits of it, oh my God, for energy. So meditation um, calms down the limbic system, the emotional part of your brain, but it also thickens the prefrontal cortex, meaning as a leader, you will make better decisions. So meditation is like, for me, above all, alongside with physical exercise and sleep. And these, I have my little routines that I stick to, like move my body every day, meditate at least once a day. Doesn't have to be long. So, and for men and women, hormones, as you mentioned, the main thing is hormones. And yet research shows that there's not such a big difference in the gender, but there's a bigger difference in the individual. Like again, who the individual is in front of us. But yeah, the hormones for women, the need for more sleep, for example, right? And yet women make better decisions. Brain science says so. Because the hemispheres, as I mentioned, interact more with each other. They have better functioning in the prefrontal cortex. So, and as I've worked with men leaders with men leaders before, many of them have started hiring women executives because they're really good at what they do.
That's really, really interesting and reminds me of
Mm.
a video that I saw where a guy was pointing out almost the same thing, just not in scientific terms, but in more philosophical terms, that he sees the woman as the leader, that women are born leaders because of their brain function and how they operate. And we are basically born with the skills, but we have to activate them. Just let's
Mhm.
remember that. We are born with them, but we need to train them to be excellent leaders, right? And
Mhm.
pair that with emotional intelligence, right? Not burst out at every situation. But I fully agree with that. And this so strongly contradicts to the Western um, worldview almost, that the man is supposed to lead. And I personally see it in more detailed ways, that a man can also be a leader and should be a leader in certain terms. But when it
Mhm.
comes to the global, so to speak, global decisions, I feel that women would be a better take at making decisions. because of their brain, but because also we are the ones raising the children. So we have a better view on what our children might need in the future. And I see that all the time. There's a, you mentioned COVID, for example. In
Mm-hmm.
Germany, it was very, very strict at the time I was living in Germany, and now I'm a digital nomad traveling the world. I'm basically a free bird. I can do whatever I please, right? But back
Mm-hmm.
then, it was a very strict system, especially during COVID. And I
Mm-hmm.
noticed something enormously interesting. While men were primarily focused on adjusting themselves to the new strict system, women were breaking out, especially the mothers. They were
Mm-hmm.
breaking out of the system and they were leaving the country. There has almost not been that huge flood of people who were leaving the country during COVID in the past 100 years of Germany. There has been in the like prior 200, 300 years
Mm-hmm.
prior, there have been a lot of floods where people were leaving the country, right? My ancestors included, but in the last 100 years, there have not been. So I saw an interesting move that women have the consciousness to feel when something's wrong much earlier than men can do. And I think a smart man will honor that intuition, will honor that feeling of a woman
Mm-hmm.
if she's healthy, right? On multiple levels,
Yeah.
right? Not just bursting out and at every situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is so crucial to incorporate in every realm of life, right? Whether you are in your work, whether you are at home, to have that kind of collaboration, because I hate to see that kind of fight that we have currently
Mm-hmm.
between men and women. Who is better? Who is doing that and this, and who should follow whom? Right? This is very unhealthy. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it also comes down to energy. In a global sense, when we speak about energy, it is not only what you as a single person have on your
Mm-hmm.
energy, how to say, statistic, right? In your energy
Mm-hmm.
bucket,
Mm-hmm.
but also as a global concept of energy. Where do you get your energy? And if you're constantly fighting man against women, X
Mm-hmm.
against Y, your energy will be depleted, right? Even if
Mm-hmm.
you meditate, even if you have your diet right, even if XYZ is right, all the things that you've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, even if you do that, you will still feel depleted if the global energy between man and woman, mother and child, and father and child and stuff, when that global energy field is not fully nourished by the things
Mm-hmm.
that we understand about ourselves and respect each other for the gifts that we naturally have
Mm-hmm.
and can develop by helping each other again.
Mm-hmm. And I like the creation part, so I've looked into it because I like to research. Like I like to understand. I don't believe anything, but I don't disbelieve it either. I like to take the information and see what makes sense and see proof of it, even if it's anecdotal. That sometimes I always like. I don't teach theory. I'm the test subject of what I do, and what I've learned is what I believe now is the strongest creative force in the world is where a strong man and a strong woman combine their talents, gifts, skills. They have the potential to create the most in the world. So yeah, instead of like colliding and fighting, to come together and like co-create. There's definitely a dream inside you that you maybe lost sight of. Maybe you it didn't make sense. It seemed foolish to dream and think, or maybe it's a moonshot, whatever you might call it, that makes you come alive. So, and it's okay to begin with starting to build the castles in the air. It's not the wrong thing to do. And because you can then start laying the real foundation afterwards under it. And there's always the next level for you. And as it said, like we ourselves are inside a bottle and we can't really read the label. So we can't see our blind spots. So that's why it's, and I believe most of you know, important to find a coach, find a mentor, find someone that you can, who believes in you when you don't see the greatness in you, and go from there.
Where can people find you to start that journey with you?
So you can find me on social, on Instagram, Facebook, Evely Raudmets, or you can go to evelyraudmets.com and just drop an email to me and say hi. And I would be excited to hear about you and see what we could co-create together.
Of course, I will leave all the links in the description below so you can get in contact with Evely and start your journey of greatness and excellence. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. This was a joy talking to you, and I could have continued this conversation for many more hours as I admire your take that is so smart and eloquent, but at the same time, you have so much empathy for your clients and for what they are going through. This is like a beautiful fusion of a mentor.
Thank you. I appreciate your kind words. And it's like the time just flew. I had fun and I loved like your takes on things and your insights. So it was a beautiful co-creation. I just love that word now. Thank you.